Welcome to Season 2 of Bed and Butter, the hospitality podcast designed exclusively for budding students and aspiring industry leaders. The podcast is in partnership with Southern Maine Community College. We're thrilled to continue this exciting journey with you. Each episode will delve into the heart of hospitality, uncovering invaluable insights, trends, and strategies. Join us along with culinary professionals, entrepreneurs, hotel and cruise line executives. Whether you're sharpening your skills or stepping into the world of hospitality for the first time, Bed and Butter is your go-to resource. So let's dive in and spread the knowledge, one episode at a time.
Welcome to today's episode. We're thrilled to have Carrie Nielsen, the Senior Director of Design at Group 1, the JCJ Architecture Studio, joining us. Carrie's creativity and expertise in the hotel design are evident in the stunning spaces she brings to life. In this episode, she'll share her journey to becoming the leader in this industry and give us an inside look at what goes into creating exceptional hotel interiors. Let's dive in. So sit back, relax, and get inspired. Hi, Carrie. So glad to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I've told you before, our audiences are really a lot of students, some people early in the profession, some people that are seasoned executives, and even brand people. Hilton and Marriott follow us. So it's a great crowd out there. So you can, keep it whimsical and fun for all of us, and dumb it down for Sean if you can a little bit. Don't get too technical on me. So take me through your life. When you started out, or when you thought about being an interior design architect, when you went to school, career, and the successes. We'll go through all of that today. Can you start with your, how you get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've always been curious about volume, scale, the three-dimensional environment. As a kid, I remember being away at camp, overnight camp in the summer. And, I would be in my camp space at nighttime, settling in for the night after a busy day. And everybody has to turn off their lights and go to bed. And by flashlight, I'm laying there, laying down, belly down, and sketching and trying to figure out floor plans, and had graph paper, surprisingly. And that's kind of like where I started. I just really liked envisioning three-dimensional spaces. And I'd find myself, kind of peeking in as I was driving along, like wondering what a space behind the walls was like. So it just navigated my path to pursue it. And I'm fortunate because not everybody knows what they want to do when they come out, of high school. And I just found an art college that wasn't too close to home. I still love exploring. I still love traveling. And I found a college that had interior architecture as a major, and that was in Baltimore, and I'm up in Boston. And everything started from there, internships and careers and companies.
Wow. I think, it's interesting you mentioned education. I think there's so many different ways to have you educated, and, you've weaved your way into the hotel world, but it started out as lying on your belly in a tent and drawing pictures. And I think that's a great story about following your dream. But you're right. People switch their dreams and they switch what they want to do. And so you followed it, and maybe you didn't know you're going to be a hotel designer, but
no, I did it. I actually, when my first internship was with a company while I was in college, and I didn't know if I would like, education space or healthcare or corporate, but they happened to be a hotel design firm, and it just really opened my eyes to what that meant. I got to do a little bit of residential type stuff, bigger scale lobby, public spaces, amenities, and it really, it seemed to touch all the things. So I stayed with it. So it's been over 20 years.
20 years. Wow. You talk about interior design, and I'm, I know what the product is you have, but kind of explain to all of us, the audience, about what is an interior designer. And then, I know it's not just picking colors and swatches.
Right.
And there's a lot more to it. And I've seen some of the other stuff you're doing. If you don't touch it, I'm going to, because I'm just amazed at what you dig into. But just kind of talk about what that does. What's that mean, at least in our area of expertise?
Yeah. Everybody kind of has a different, sometimes you're in a little bit of a bucket over here doing one thing, and sometimes you're in another bucket. You could be focused on space planning or, picking furniture and fabrics. For me personally, and our team, we do it all. We do everything from, if you imagined a cardboard box, and what happens inside. Everything inside is what we envision. It could be the traffic flow, the spatial relationships, the scale of a ballroom, if it's 16 feet or 12, down to the guest room and maybe where the bed sits. Is it floating in the middle of the room or is it against a wall? And we even help advise, where power outlets go and technology and then down to the bill. So it really is all encompassing. And that's what I love. I love creating the space. I love when people walk into a space that maybe started out as a cardboard box, but now it's something.
Wow. So I think that part, you that one line I think you just said is that, anything you see and touch within the very outside walls, you own. And I've seen you in meetings, or you and your team, and how you're not just talking about the pretty stuff. It's talking about how does the guest get from the front door to the front desk, up the elevator, to their room, into their room, to the bathroom, and all of that stuff. So all of those things are incorporated into it. And then all the pretty stuff has to happen too.
Yeah, it's about an experience. As soon as you drive up to the hotel, you want an experience. People are coming there for a reason. And what is that experience they're looking for? How can we captivate them? How can we make it so they want to come back? And I know for us, it's three-dimensional spatial experiences, but we're also very cognizant of how can the hotel run successfully? The support that's needed, the back of house versus the front of house, how the staff operates, and laundry has to be close to, the guest rooms and elevator attached so that it's efficient, it takes time to turn over a room. And so we have all that from experience in our buckets as we start to plan a space.
I think that was interesting. The projects we've worked on, some of the bigger ones, it really is an integral part. You can't just look at, some people think interior design is coming in, they're going to paint it with pink, blue, or green and put gray carpet. There's a lot more to it. And I think the advice you gave us in some instances could have saved us the project by the way you helped us, design things, like you said, for the associates and for the own. But the other thing, and you've probably known me for a long time, I always pounded on about cost.
Yeah.
You bring that stuff into that as well, right?
Absolutely. We always want to have the pie in the sky, but there's a reality, and there's always a creative way to solve a problem or a solution. So, I think we always have a concept in mind. We collaborate with our team, owner team, operations team. It might be a brand, and there's always a way to create that vision, just on different scales, different scales of budget. So we're very aware of the cost, whether, it's in the building attached items that might be, a front desk, or, the cost of fabric and lead times. Also, there's things that take time to get to a space to be produced and manufactured. So, and then there's codes. There's lots of codes that we have to consider, so that's a safe environment for everybody within that fun experience.
With the materials you have, they have to be certain levels of fiber. And then you get into that. You do more than just the interior. Your company does a lot of other stuff too. Yep. But in your world. But I think it's really interesting because you have the code, but you also have brand standards.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know. So you're saying, okay, Hilton wants this, Marriott wants that, the owner wants this, I like this. How do you blend them all together to have a product that's going to be cost effective and has an ROI, return on investment?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of team players, especially when we have a branded hotel. I think we have a lot of experience in that platform. So, we already know their codes and standards, and they are continuing to evolve just like everybody else. So we're constantly meeting with them and engaging with them to learn of those new, I wouldn't say trends, but new experiences. And that's oftentimes where you and I run into each other.
Yeah.
When we're both learning together. But, so everybody has something that they want, but there's always, again, like I said, a way to solve it. And it's not repetitive. There might be a brand who, always wants a front desk that's a long front desk, for example, but there's always a way to make it different than the last long front desk you did. And it's not just about the material that goes on it, but maybe the position in the hotel. So always another way to solve it.
Well, so we talked a little bit about brands. So you have branded hotels you work with, then you have boutique hotels. What is the difference from your eyesight? But then what does it mean to all of us?
Yeah. So they're starting to get a little bit more blurry. The branded hotels, like maybe the Marriotts, the Hiltons, the Hyatts, they have kind of moved out into the boutique soft experience. We call it the soft brand, where they don't necessarily look like a traditional Marriott on inside or outside. They're more of the autographs, the curios, but they still have their standards. They still have their foundation, their key touch points that we have to consider. What's different about that from a boutique, which is maybe a entirely non-branded hotel, is that you might just have a little bit more room for experiential moments, or it might be the operating team that is willing to kind of push some extra boundaries and maybe some of the collateral and touch points that the guests engages with. There is a little bit more depth that we can bring to that.
And so with the brands, they kind of handcuff you in some ways, but I think what I've seen over the last 10 years is that even in your branded hotel, your Courtyard, your Fairfield, your Hampton, they allow you and they give you some freedom to kind of take in the community, at least more so into their public space. And then you can still, for us, we like to just go with the brand in the rooms because, it's simple, it's easy, and it's cost effective, and your guests know what they want. But if you can make the lobbies of the public space a little more sexy, it has a good experience. So you've done some of that for us too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of different ways that you and I have worked together. There might be a guest room that is a prototype of a brand, but the lobby then is more unique and it's not following prototype. But yeah, absolutely. I think one of the reasons that you hire us and a lot of designers is that we do create that different experience for each of the hotels, and we bring in the local context and relationship. What is interesting about Portland, and that concept starts to come in because people are coming to your hotel for an experience. So we're bringing that experience from the outside in and making it memorable. So not everything looks like the same when you have a Fairfield Inn.
Your comment about experiential, I think that's really a direction that the industry is going. The guests now are saying, we want an experience. We don't want a hotel room. We want an experience when we go to that hotel room. So that's where it gets a little beyond the box, that cardboard box you talk about. It's not just you got a bed, you got a chair, you got a TV and all that. You got to create an experience. And on the boutique, would create more experience. The soft brands, you get to do some and have a fun time with it. And even the brands now let you create an experience within the public space.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah,
I think
the brands are great, and there's a menu or a foundation, and an operating manual, a design manual, and you work within that, but you can still create something very different and experiential, and it's pretty efficient.
And they have an intent, and as long as you're working toward that intent, then you're okay. Might have to push a little, and you might have to give a little, but it does give you more experience, and that's what I think. I think the brands have awakened to that.
Yeah.
It's the success of the soft brands and the boutique, and they say, how do we now make the so-called boxes, the branded boxes, a bit more experiential? Well, that's really an interesting conversation. Let's talk about brands in general. How do they distinguish themselves from each other? How do you say a Hampton, a Fairfield, a Courtyard, and an AC? What is all that?
A few ways. Sometimes it's about the target audience and the market you're in. So you might have a Courtyard, next to a Residence Inn. A Courtyard is geared towards more of a business customer, and a Residence Inn is geared towards more of a family. And then that fuels what's inside and happening in that hotel. So in a Residence Inn, you're going to have kitchenettes, a little bit more versus, maybe more queens or double queens versus just kings. Whereas a Courtyard, you have less doubles and you don't have kitchenettes. You might just have a little hospitality unit. And then that's in the guest room, and in the public space, it's similar. You treat those spaces to cater to the guest target that you're trying to pull in.
And then but when the brand says, we want you to have a residence, there are certain things that they want you to encompass. Like you said, the kitchenettes and that kind of stuff. And the same thing with the Courtyards. But it's interesting, they all talk about swim lanes.
Yes.
You got the Fairfield swim lane, you got the Hampton swim lane, and each one of them, and there's blurring that goes on in there. And I know a lot of owners struggle with that, but you have to be able to kind of follow that lead and maybe stretch it a little. And I think especially in those unique areas that are, if you're on a roadside and you've got Fairfield or Hampton, it's going to be a Fairfield or Hampton. If you're downtown Burlington or Portland or Portsmouth, it might be a little sexier, it might be a little cooler.
Right. Yeah.
So you've talked about the impact. We've talked about impact, people on the business and people that have done things in your life. And we had the conversation about, who influenced your life, who really impacted your life. And honestly, I did get a little emotional. I thought it was a really, I could just imagine the life you had with your impactful person. Why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah. So my father had a tremendous influence on my life. He's blind. He's been blind all my life. So I grew up in a different kind of family envelope of, navigating. I, would open his mail and read it to him when I was 7 or 8 years old. And, it made me a more independent person. But I think it unknowingly influenced me a lot in how I approach life, what I see through my eyes, and, why spatial relationships kind of are important to me. I walk with him down the street and he's holding my arm and I have to tell him where a curb is. So he knows, or not walk him into something. So I'm really more aware of my surroundings. But he's also been very passionate. If you are with him and you're talking to him, you actually wouldn't know he's blind because he looks right at you. He has a dialogue with you. He's like, he's works on town committees and whatnot. So he has never let something so big to some people really get in his way. And it's really just showing me that drive, passion, perseverance. You just got to keep going and there's always a workaround.
That's impressive. And I think it's really neat that you said that it helps you with your spatial, your space and your depth and all that stuff. And maybe it's his lack of that, but he's probably got it in his head. It's just, but you can see it and have it in your head and you can maybe see more than others.
And probably use a more explanation, right? So when I'm trying to explain to him what something looks like, there's a lot of content. If someone can't see it all, you have to explain, well, that's fuzzy and it has this depth to it. And so versus just, oh, go look and see. So there's a lot more visual descriptions that I need to be able to relay, which is great for when we have to when I have to present to our clients, like.
I've sat through those and I listened. I was like, wow, this sounds so good. I could never use those things. So you tell your dad thank you because it does help me understand what you're doing to us. So thank you for me. You had another mentor, the guy that's been a long-term mentor. I don't want to leave him out either.
Yeah. He was my Woody Faust. He was my former manager, boss at another company before I joined Group 1 JCJ. And he turned into a friend, and I've just always relied on his experience and outlook my entire career. He taught me how to, I guess, get better at what I already did, thinking about space three-dimensionally, connecting environments and what happens behind the scenes and what to think of in a hotel. And he took me with him to go see those places. And I remember one of my first great experiences was early on creating a hotel lobby in the Marriott Indianapolis. And after 3 years of working on it, going to see it and installing furniture and, people walking through the space and actually being in the space that used to just be on paper. It's pretty incredible to have that. And that's one of the feelings, the rewards of doing this job is that there's something actually tactile that people can experience from something small that you created. Not a lot of people can say they have that opportunity to see something in their life.
Well, I can speak from experience about your creativity because when you did one hotel for us about 15 years ago, the thing that amazed me most is I'm thinking this is a high-end out of Boston firm and Carrie walks in right at the time.
I know where you're going.
Very pregnant with Target bags and Best Buy and all this stuff that was like you went shopping at a store. And I'm thinking you're going to these boutique places and you're just going, but you made it look like this high-end, beautiful lobby and a lot of stuff from the Target. So I think that creativity goes and maybe she's worried about Sean and his costs and his hour.
It might have been a little budget conscious there.
But it was pretty amazing. So tell me more about you're a great person. I've known you for a long time. I really have admired you as a person first. And as a designer, not that the designer is less than you as a person, but I really do believe in you as a person and a designer. and you're a leader, but you're also a mom.
Yeah.
And, you know, in a professional career like that, that's a challenge, I would think. And tell me about your life, you know, relative to all of those things, your life, your career, and being a mom, and how you balance it or did.
Well, I mean, just like probably any other mom, professional mom, it is a juggle. And I think, you know, if you love what you do, it sometimes comes home with you. But that, like, you know, when I bring work home, it's really more about experiences and sharing that with my children. They love seeing the projects I'm working on and asking how they're going. They visited some of the places. And they,
They have hard hats.
I have a picture of my two kids, I think when they were like 6 and 12 in hard hats visiting the Moxie Boston under construction. So it's cool. And, you know, I think it's important to not necessarily keep it so separate because they have it, you know, you have to be a good example for them to be in a working environment and, you know, be productive. But I do make sure, you know, we travel a lot together. And when I come home, I usually, you know, aside from just checking emails here and there, I leave that to going to before bed and just being home and having dinner with them. We have Monday night dinners with the whole family. Everybody tries to be there, you know, so it's just balance.
I thought that was interesting. You said you save your emails till they either go to bed or till, you know, toward the end of the night and do that. Now, my emails wouldn't be any good at that time. I'm too old. But at 3 a.m, you probably got emails from me too, 3 or 4. But and I think that's a real it's an admirable that you can balance those things. And I think the fact that you're incorporating the kids into that your career, not you're making them do stuff. And they'll probably be a point. It will say, "Mom, I don't want to go anymore." But it's nice for them to be proud of their mom and see the kind of things they've done.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's not just even the work I do. Like, we love going down to Newport and looking at the mansions, mostly because I've always loved that space and seeing things in 3 dimension, and I bring them with me, and now, like, they love going too. So, you know, you just model all those things.
Well, now you are successful. I mean, you've risen to a great level of success in the world of. I mean, you're written up. I've seen pictures of stuff that you do, and your website is amazing. What about your success habits? You know, what do you do that creates it, makes you able to get through this? Now, I know you can be the biggest pain in the butt when you're saying, "Sean, did you get this yet? Sean, did you get that yet?" But I think part of that is you have a way to keep the project going, and you found success in how you do that. What are the tricks you have?
Definitely lists and calendars are big for for me anyways. I mean, work, home, everything. We call them work plans, and we kind of establish a work plan for every project and try to forecast, you know, what are the different stages? What am I going to need at that stage? Who's part of the team on that phase or stage? And then there's checklists within them and target dates and to-do lists for then I have a separate to-do list outside of that for myself or for the people that we're working with or managing. So just being very organized and then setting goals and creating that action plan to that goal and then just continuing to revisit it. I think weekly we have meetings on every project to be able to break it down. What were we able to accomplish? You know, what did we have challenges with? And it's not just the project goals, it's, you know, peer goals with your group, you know, understanding what other people can do too.
Well, I think that's important in all of our lives. Organization is important. And I'm always very fortunate to have someone like you that's beside me work. It keeps me organized as well.
I flag all your emails, red, red, red.
Okay, Sean, get back to me. Sean, get back to me. Well, and I don't want to miss this. I got to go back to it that not only are you a mom and you're a great designer and you're a great businesswoman, you also hike a 12,000-foot mountain.
Yes. Yeah, I was out in Idaho, the Sawtooth Mountains. We hiked for 3 days and camped out. And there were alpine lakes, and I love the outdoors. So anything outdoors.
Well, yeah, I know you're a biker too, and you hike hundreds of miles.
Yeah, I think a bike I've done, you know, in one day from Boston to Vermont for 150 miles.
Wow. So there's another success habit. You've got your foot, but I think that balancing your life and having something for yourself in there too. I mean, you can't just always give to your kids and give to your clients and give to your boss, you know, giving to yourself a little bit. I think I don't know if I'd go 12,000 feet or 150 miles, but it is a great thing. Lastly, just tell me, you've done really well. And maybe you can just give our listeners, whether it be the students, They're newcomers to the business, the people who are building their careers, and even people with their careers. What kind of advice can you throw out to us?
Maybe being open-minded. I think a lot of people, maybe once the project is done and the space is being used, there's always things that could be improved. And it's great for us to hear that because we're continuing to learn on how spaces are used and what works and what doesn't. But I think even myself, I'll go to another hotel and I'll think, oh, this could have been maybe better used this way, or this material, blah, blah, blah. I think what we forget is that I've been in that same position, and maybe the budget like made something happen, or there was an operator or brand who said, no, I want it to happen this way, even though you show it this way. So there's a lot of things out of our control that we're just trying to keep the project intact, make it successful. And there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So we're making a lot of people happy, and don't get mad if sometimes things are not exactly, as efficient as it could be. But yeah.
Well, I apologize in advance for those things that I'll do to you.
It's always good feedback to hear.
Yeah. If you would, just the company you work for now, and maybe a website if they want to check out some of these projects. So they're really cool projects. It'd be cool for them to see them.
Yeah, JCJ, and we're the Group 1 studio out of Boston, and it's just jcjarchitecture.com. And we have 6 offices across the country. Traditional hospitality is our focus here in the Boston office, but academics, healthcare, education, casinos, we really touch on it all. It's exciting.
Well, I really appreciate you being here, Carrie, and I really have admired you from afar, and you've done some great work for us on our projects, and I look for more of those. And we're working together with you again and watching what you do to continue to grow. So thank you so much. And
thank you. This was super fun.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Bed and Butter, the hospitality podcast produced in partnership with Southern Maine Community College. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you don't miss any episodes, and have a butterful day.